Welcome to the Startup Grind.
A bit about Startup Grind. Startup Grind is a Google initiative, happens globally, currently in 150 cities. Every month we have one entrepreneur and we do a fireside chat. The idea is to create a global ecosystem of startups and to get inspiration from people who have been there, done that, succeeded. So this is our 5th edition.
Succeeded and failed.
Yeah, succeeded and failed. This is our 5th edition, and the Startup Grind Mumbai is run by Mahesh Kabra, my co-founder, and that's Mahesh here, and me, Atul Divya. Mahesh runs Startup Partners and advisory for startups. I personally run 2 companies, Cartridge Junction and eVision Technologies. Let's jump into the event. So while coming here, I was just kind of thinking, how to introduce our guest for the evening, and Mila, the name means union, and interestingly, I don't know whether his parents thought of that when they named him, but he straddles, multiple cultures, multiple worlds, multiple products, and different thought processes. So something in the mailer has been sent out, but so he's a Stanford grad who has done algorithm trading and then moved into printing, which is a very mundane kind of business and very traditional kind of business, and then launched into FMCG, which is completely a B2C kind of business, and so very interesting. And even the thought process that goes into his ventures. He has traded speed for more of building a stronger foundation and more bottom line than top line, which is the norm today. So very interesting, and I think rather than me try to kind of introduce him, let's jump into this and let him say it in his own words. So welcome to Startup Grind, Mila.
Thank you.
And first of all, why don't you tell us a bit about PrintStop?
Sure. First of all, again, apologies for the delay. I kind of assumed that the networking is going to be post the talks. I'd asked the guys to get the yogurt later on, and then I realized it before. So we'll try to keep this as short as possible. So started PrintStop in 2007 when I came back from the US. The whole idea was to professionalize the printing space. When we were in college or school-going kids, all you could see was typical yellow-black Xerox boards around you. They would have a glass behind there with a lot of posters, either gods or models and stuff like that, and some magic happening behind, and you get your final product which you want. And when I was in the US, I saw a chain of stores called Kinko's. And Kinko's basically kind of was a Disneyland for printing, in another word. I mean, when you walk into there and you say, oh my God, I can't believe that there's a printing company which can have a space like this. But that was the original inspiration behind PrintStop. They had 2,000 plus locations in the US. And I'm like, is this possible to replicate this in India? Because printing is something which is ubiquitous. You need printing in every possible thing that you can think about. Anything and everything you look around, whether it's schools, supermarkets, your business, every possible thing has has printing applications. So that was basically the genesis behind PrintStop.
So let me take you a little backwards. So tell me about the journey from Sion to Stanford. I mean that is something which again is very interesting. What story you told me.
Right. So just like another typical Indian kid, we're always very academically oriented. So used to be decent in school, among the top 5-6 students. Typically got good grades. So क्या लेना है science लेना है. Option of course. Science में भी अच्छा किया, we were good in college. अभी क्या करना है? Computer engineering. So I went to Vivekanand in Chembur. That's where I did 4 years of engineering. And I realized, what do I know? At the end of 4 years, I knew how to crack exams. I knew I could write, how I could wing it and get good grades. So at the end of it, like, you know what? I am a computer engineer, but still I think I wanted to get some more practical knowledge. So I decided to apply and go to masters. I applied to 10 universities, was very lucky to get into Stanford, which was among the dream list. At that time, about 10 years back, 12 years back, the idea was that you apply to 2 dream universities, 4 medium and 6 you are sure into. So that was a general norm. and it's kind of handed over from the seniors. So this was one of the dream ones, and to get into there was like amazing. So I decided to go there and pursue computer science. I mean, studying wise, it was very, very good. Got to learn a lot of practical stuff. Not only that, but the best part about Stanford was all the freedom that you get. I did so many other interdisciplinary courses, did a few courses from the business school. At the same time, I did a lot of extracurricular activities. Stanford is a quarter system, which basically means you have 4 quarters in a year, except summer, and you get to get about 10 credits per quarter. So it's like 3 courses for 3 credits each, and then 1 credit extra. And I used to have done stuff like hip hop dancing, tennis, swimming, windsurfing. So every possible thing I could have done, I have done that there. So the experience was very nice. At the end of it, worked in the tech industry, but I think education is something that is not necessarily you apply every day, but it broadens your horizons.
But getting into Stanford, then you can write your ticket virtually. So did that happen?
So no, it definitely helps open a lot of doors. People are much more receptive to at least talk to you, understand where you're coming from. But then other than that, nothing major. I mean, other than that, it's a pretty, based on what you do, that's what you were taken for.
So your first job was with Oracle?
No. The first job out of Stanford was in a hedge fund in Manhattan, and so it was a tech job. But then I used to be writing strategies for the hedge fund, basically trying to code the algorithms which the trader does. So that was about a year odd post school.
And then you jumped to the Valley again?
So what happened is, in the meanwhile, I got married. My wife also was with me in my undergrad. We went back to the US in December, and my company, the boss decided to shut down the business. It was about a 400 million fund, and so they were making profits, but not as much as the heydays. And he decided to quit shop and go for his further education to Stanford. So he decided to go to Stanford and he's like, I'm going to quit. I'm like, okay. And that time we got 2 severe storms in New York. And my wife cannot handle AC, forget the storms. So उसने बोला भाई चलो वापस. And that's when we decided to go back to California, sunny California, the land of the shorts and the convertibles.
So I get 2 storms in New York, but you get less rain than what you get in Bombay. So I don't know what they qualify as a storm there. That's a misnomer, I think.
Okay.
So is there a real storm that happens in New York?
The storms are there, but it's very cold, right? So that's the big, she couldn't handle the cold. And then I think staying in California is nothing comparable. New York has its own vibe, but then California is California.
So the Valley is a dream, and a lot of people from here want to get there. But why did you want to come back from the Valley?
I personally think that everybody should have the experience of going there once, whether it is to study or to work. But in the end, we were very kicked about coming back to India and pursue our own dreams. So there was a good job, software development was good, we paid well. But in the end, I did not enjoy coding. It did not flow like poetry. So in the end, we had to figure out to do something. And my wife, in fact, is much more entrepreneurial than I am. She was the reason why we came back earlier. Otherwise, I would have dragged maybe a few more years, maybe never. So our day job was working with Oracle. Our night job was finding out ventures in India.
But why, at the end of it, you chose printing? So is there any family background, anything in the family which kind of pushed you into that?
Yes and no. So we have a very deep connect to printing in our family. My father started his career as a photocopy operator in the 80s. In those days, you used to get manual machines and you used to take about 3.5 minutes to take one photocopy at 1 rupee at that time, which was a lot of money. Post that, he pretty much went into the trading space. So he was one of the pioneers to get a lot of these copier machines imported to India and consumables and equipment for it. So the backing was in the trading space, but the idea was, after looking at Kinko's, we were inspired to do that here. And luckily we had the springboard, the jumping, the whole ecosystem knowledge was there in order to help us to start. So the starting up was easier.
But when you started, were there any competitors? Like, was Printo there at that time, or there were some other guys who were there in a similar space?
Frankly, when I started, I didn't even realize who else was there. Printo had started about a year back from us, but that time the whole startup culture, entrepreneurship, to pata bhi nahi tha. Kuch karna hai, that was the only thing. It's just when we started going a little more inside and everything, that's when we realized, okay, there is something, there's way beyond. The idea initially was, Bombay mein itself, you can have so many stores. So let's look at Bombay. So I never even looked beyond Mumbai. But as we started going deeper and deeper inside the printing space, the applications, the reach, and all was so amazing that that's when we decided to scale up.
So a little bit more on the model that you followed, the first model of Printstop. What was the model? Was it a standalone store? Was it a franchisee model? What was the model that you?
The model was a standalone store which is company owned. The idea is that, like I said, you would have seen traditional Xerox stores which are still very prevalent. I wanted to kind of compare Vada Pav Wala versus McDonald's. So if you go into any of a print stop, you'll see a proper board. In fact, the rate card which you see is unlike most places where you see 1 print ka itna, 2 to 10 prints, 11 to 50 prints, etc. You'll see business cards starting 2 rupees, letterhead starting 10 rupees. So it's a product driven menu. And especially because we have several stores, we couldn't afford to, the people running the show weren't at the store. So you can't wait for like, Acha, this guy is well dressed, I can charge him maybe more, let me get more. It had to be a very structured, fixed rate card based job. So that's how our stores are. So, but the biggest difference I think is it's product driven versus service driven.
So how fast did these stores come? So you started roughly about 2008, 2007?
Yes, 2007. We were very, very slow in growth if you compare to current startups which are like escalating like anything. We opened on an average 1 store a year, which was decent as per us because we were getting clarity on our model as we grew. The initial idea was to just open retail stores. But then as we were opening more and more stores and a lot of corporates used to come to our stores for basic services like photocopies and printing. And looking at our store, they said that can you handle corporate printing also? That's when our B2B sales started happening. So from retail, pretty much within the second year, we started catering to a lot of corporate clients. And like I said, printing is just needed by everyone.
So did you have a sales team running after the corporates, or was it they came to you and then kind of?
It was all pull. In fact, we have a sales team after, we are now about 8 years old. After 5 years is when we have the sales team.
Okay.
So till then it was all pull. They used to come by word of mouth, the references. We never went out to anyone.
Did the store formats or the services you offered change in the 8 years, across the 8 years?
I would say our business plan has changed pretty almost every couple of years. We started off with one vision, but as we have progressed, we have kept on adapting it. The original idea was, like I said, to open a chain of stores. Then we kind of spawned it into a stores and corporate sales. So we kind of moved on to a hub and spoke kind of a model. Where what happens is our store sizes started reducing from about 500, 600 square feet to about 200 square feet. The idea was to get only limited products there and any products which you need very quickly. And the rest of the jobs are funneled back to the hub. So that's how we changed from a big store format to a small store format.
Do you have a backward integration to offset the printing units?
Yes.
Do you also outsource?
Printing, Atul is from the printing space, so a lot of terms are very easy to him. But just for everyone, digital printing is something which is for shorter runs and you need quicker things. Offset quantities are needed for longer runs and for larger quantities basically. So we get a lot of our orders from corporates which are big quantities. So all those are contracted to offset vendors. However, there is a very deep integration with them. The reason is all the initial paper buying, the plates, the complete post press, which is the cutting, binding, stitching is all done in-house. The only thing we do is get the capacity of those machines to run them on them. Because we didn't want to get into offset printing on our own because that's like a huge investment, plus it's a very different line, while you have so many vendors who have less capacity and you can outsource them.
And then that paradigm shift happened to the online. Is it because inspired by the whole startup ecosystem last 2-3 years, it's pulled up, or is it a natural progression of what your business is and the model keeps changing every 2 years? So what is the reason why this whole shift has happened?
The actual story is very interesting. The original idea for Printstop, like I said, was to do standard printing, but as soon as we started doing corporate printing, we wanted to get some technology involvement. So the whole web to print, which is now so much more popular, was very different about 7-8 years back. The original idea we had was that let's just build corporate logins where people can transfer files to us, see what is there and print. That's pretty much it. So we tried that way back about 7 years back and failed miserably at it. Then we gave it one more shot after a year or two of that, again failed miserably, and now this current avatar, which is 2 years old, is where we are finding success.
So talk a little bit more about the web to print. I mean, what kind of successes you've seen and what is the behavioral change that's happened in corporates from having a printer visit their offices, take the orders, to them going online or actually pushing it to the user level where a user himself can place an order and then someone can kind of approve the order and the whole thing is completely automated.
Correct.
So that whole shift that has happened. So talk a little bit more about that.
So what happens is if you all, I mean, everybody would have dealt with printing companies sometime in their life, whether it's to get a basic photocopy or some basic printing for the business cards or something. As far as the corporates is concerned or even SME businesses are concerned, most people consider printing companies to be right at the pitch. I compare printing companies to car salesmen in the US. They are considered right way at the bottom. If I go to any corporate and tell them that I'm a printer, they'll join the queue. You never kind of get that level of respect or even when as much as let's say a designing company or some other companies get, because you're talking to the decision makers as compared to talking to the admin guys at the bottom. I mean the admin guys, all they care about is pick up the phone, call up 5 people, negotiate rates, do some hanky-panky and in the end get it done. So that's the way it is. So we figured that is there a way that we can make a difference in this ecosystem the way it is. And that coupled with our learning of doing printing in the offline space for 5 years. So according to me, the biggest problem in India is when you need your file the most, you will never get it. आपको कुछ business cards print करवाने हैं, try finding that artwork. Good luck on that. Either it is at the designer's place or it is at the printing company, somewhere on your hard drive. You're not even sure if it's the right version. If you find that artwork, hopefully you can open it. What is this Corel Draw, Photoshop, fonts are missing. So that is a lot of startups and a lot of SMEs don't even have artworks. We get artworks in Word, Excel, PowerPoint can be printed. The second problem is once, let's say you have somebody else joining your company or you get cards or anything printed for them, find a DTP guy or a designer. Big designer said, yeah, this is not our work, this is adaptation, go to somewhere else. Try to go to a DTP guy, try to go to a local store and stand in front of that guy and make him edit. He has 4 other customers bleeding down the neck, so he'll either help you or he'll help them. The same story used to happen at our stores. We used to get calls saying that, मैं edit करवा रहा हूँ, आपका बंदा सुन नहीं रहा है. Like, yeah, something has to be done. So this whole offline business is, we figured, can we do something about it? Post that, with corporates is the whole quotation cycle. 100 करवाएंगे तो कितना, 200 करेंगे तो ज़्यादा, कम होगा क्या? If I do more, will it be cheap? We end up telling them that, you know what, at a certain point it becomes free. So that is the whole. And finally after that, you end up placing the order, then there are phone calls. Print hua, laminate hua, has it been dispatched, what is the airway bill number, things like that. So it was crazy, and to complicate this problem, we now communicate through 5 effective mediums. Phones, SMSs, WhatsApps, emails, everything. So think, good luck to you trying to get everything together and figuring out where is your order. And then there is a blame game going on. Somewhere, I mean, when it's such a complicated model, you're going to fail somewhere. And that's where the finger is. Tum log printers go hi aise. But unfortunately, nobody realizes from the printer's aspect that that poor guy has to make up for all the delays with the designing team made, the directors or whoever approval take, because the event date is not going to change. Our Indian best, sir, ho jayega. There is no never. So then you cut corners, but you make stuff reach, and the whole thing goes for a toss. So that's when we realized, can we use technology to solve some of these problems? And that's where I think the inspiration for Print Smart came up. You want me to go into the...
Yeah, so before you launch, there's a story that resonates with what he has gone through. So, I run Cartridge Junction, which is into recycling of cartridges. So I was sitting with the CTO of a large MNC and trying to switch him from using original to this. In the middle of the conversation, he gets a call. He says, give me 10 minutes, I'm sitting with my Bhangar. And that day, it hit me. This was 6 months into this venture. And I realized I need to kind of get respect. So we converted it into a solution called Managed Print Services. So that's the idea. I mean, that's the thing. So, what happens is it's not the lowest. It's probably way below the lowest level that is there printing. But yeah, if you package it well, I guess that's what it is. So I think, why don't you show people what this Print Smart is all about? So I think, so this is one difference that we are doing today. That was a very interesting solution. So he just launched it yesterday. So the 2 things that have launched. One is the solution and one is the ice cream. The Greek yogurt. So I would like you to just kind of spend 5-10 minutes and just run through this.
give you a little bit gyan about Printmart. I mean, it's not launched yesterday. The new avatar, the new
Yeah,
look,
the avatar.
new website is what was launched yesterday, and which was supposed to be launched last week. So I did a yes to this event. So till yesterday night, in fact, today morning, I've been just trying to fix bugs and get things done. But then it's in a situation that I can show it to you. So basically, what do we do in Printmart? All we do is we take your artwork, we put it online into your account in an editable format, so that you can access it, edit it using your browser without needing any fancy softwares or without needing a designer. So that is the only thing what is Printmart. And of course, the other advantages of online being you don't have to go to a store to order and you don't have to go there to pick it up. That's basically what it is.
So I'm going to take a pause here while he just fixes it up. Why we have Milap here today, I mean from a very traditional industry like printing, is to see that what a revolution can happen in printing. I mean we have Parsons also here, very coincidentally, but what a revolution that can happen in printing using technology. And this is, obviously it is not very new, it has been there, but this can actually change the entire process and all the problems which he just elaborated, how this one solution can completely eliminate the delays, the problems. From a 30-day delay, it can bring it down to less than a 5-day or a 6-day delivery cycle. So that's the idea why Milap is here today.
I think I'm audible, right? I don't need to use the mic. So basically, this is our new website which got launched yesterday. We've been live since about a year and a half now. And in fact, Printmart is live since about 4 months. But it was never kind of featuring on our website anywhere. So we had to give it the spotlight. So I will just go show you a quick demo about Printstock. I'm just going to log into my account, which has a couple of sample artworks. So once you log into your account, in your account section, there is My Templates. Okay. And in your templates, you're going to have all your artworks which you've needed and which you have given to us. Of course, there's the first offline step which is involved, wherein the first time you'll give us your artworks, we'll convert it for our system and put it online. But at least that manual step is not going to be required every time. So the first time, so here I have a card for Goki. Goki is an interesting fitness startup people. They use the system, by the way. So your artwork is here as per brand guidelines. No need for Corel or Photoshop, any fancy software. All you need to do is, and that's it. You have your artworks there, it's converted the way you want, you check it and add it to cart and boom, that's it. The advantage is that as you are doing this, you are creating your own repository. After 6 months, I want to take Ram's cards and there's an appraisal. Edit his thing from a manager to a senior manager, boom, print. Otherwise, in the offline business, you will either find a designer, DTP guy, or you'll go to that local DTP store and then get it printed. So this is what we are doing to SMEs. In fact, we've got 3 verticals primarily. The retail stores, I've got 5 retail stores in Mumbai, our corporate channel sales and our e-commerce. We're kind of diverging all the 3 to online. What we do is, if you would go to my store and print business cards, that in the next couple of days, we'll create an online account for you, take your card, put it online, send you a nice email, sir, please don't come to our store anymore. Here's your first 20% discount on your first order. At the same price, you'll get stuff delivered to you at your doorstep. So that's what we're doing. So this is Printmart. I'll also take a minute or two to just show you some of the learnings we've had over this platform in the last few years. So previously, the whole interface was, of course, as we are learning, very cluttery. To do something, you would have to, I mean, printing is vast. The number of products you have is insane. So if you see the kind of products we do is, we've got like 8 different types of business card. In stationery, it is letterheads, envelopes and everything. Marketing has flyers, posters and everything. To do any kind of printing, you had to go to a product, for example, let's say it's business cards, and then decide what you want to do. Do you want to browse our ready designs? Do you want to upload your own? Do you want to create your own? Or you want to get custom designs made by our designing, we have a designing division also called Pehchan. A lot of SMEs who don't have artworks, they would come here, they would browse our designs. We have hundreds of templates based on industry. Let's say you're a doctor. So you would just come here, pick a design, edit your name designation, and in a minute or 2, you have your card ready. So the whole idea was that you need to find the product you need, then decide the option you want and go for it. Now we have changed based on learnings from our people, we've converted the whole workflow to journeys. So we kind of bucketed people who come to our site and how do they come to us. So a lot of people have designs ready. A lot of people want to use our templates and things like that. So all this launches into a wizard-driven approach. Let's say I have designs ready. What do I want to print? Business cards. So business card, which kind of business cards I want? Let's say back-to-back printing. Go. Instead, ask you to upload your artwork, select the options, and you're done. So journey-based workflows is what we've started doing. And one last feature that I would like to show you is visual cues make so much difference to the whole workflow. For example, previously all our products have a rate calculator included in it, which is very manual. So you would see like 100 GSM art paper, 170 GSM, 300 GSM. To a layman, does 100 and 300 make any difference? You don't even know what the difference is. So for example, if we are looking at folders or dockets, and there is a price calculator which is integrated. So our price calculator is completely visual. You select the quantity you want, whether you want one plain pouch, two plain pouches, one colored pouch, two colored pouches, do you want a card slot, do you want matte lamination, gloss lamination, and how much is the production time. So visually, it just changed that you no longer even need to read what that specification is. You can just visually decide. So which has helped us, I can't say helped us because it just launched yesterday, we'll come to know how it helps us. So this is what our whole endeavor is, to try to get people to come online, give us their artworks and place orders on a continuous basis without having to hunt for their artworks. This also has a corporate avatar. This is something called as PrintSmart Pro. It's basically the same solution with some bells and whistles. We have corporate clients actually who are on board this, who basically have multiple offices across India. So you create a custom portal for them. Multiple people access these things. They place an order. There's an approval mechanism. So one of our clients, for example, has 290 offices across India. Previously, you get visiting cards from any 2 offices. Colors are different, papers are different, positions are different. Everything is very, very different. They just finished 50 years of existence. So they wanted a very holistic and proper card as per brand guidelines. So they went onboarded to this. And there are about 1,000 plus people who are eligible for business cards. We created 1,000 logins for the system. Every user now logs into the system, creates his own card, places an order. Their HO and BKC approves it. We get the order, we print it and drop ship it. So now he gets it in like 3 days. So these are the advantages of going on.
Interesting. This avatar, how different is it from the first avatar? I mean, is there again a huge shift in what is this present avatar, the 2.0 that you've launched?
It's just way more easy to browse through. Our previous bounce ratios were very high, and when we spoke to people, the primary reason is that we were lost in what to do. There's just so many things to do that we don't know how to go ahead and what to do. So that's a huge difference in that.
So the user experience, so you have enhanced.
We spend a lot of time behind the user experience, basically.
Which has become very relevant today.
Correct.
An interesting story here. So when Bilal thought of this idea of PrintSmart, so as people usually do, he went online and looked for the domain. And then guess what? Who has the domains for PrintSmart?
This gentleman here owns the PrintSmart domain.
So anyway, so I had thought of doing this web to print as an extension to this business. But that's the reason now he's on the other side and I'm the guy who's interviewing or doing the
You want $1
chat.
million for the domain.
So again, the lesson here is, if you believe in something, jump into it. No, the lesson here is, you believe in something, jump into it. Don't wait for things to come around and, so he did that and, here he is. Coming to your, so who all are involved in this business? I believe initially, obviously your father would have been involved because of the experience that he had. So who all are involved and to what level are they involved?
So initially our father helped us because he was from the space, but pretty much within the first 6 months, my father and I both are very headstrong. So we of course had a lot of conflicts. But I'm so lucky that he walked away and said, you know what, you do your own way, because I come from a different generation. I don't think we'll ever be able to do something together. And I'm so happy and proud of that, because I see so many of my friends who are still struggling with their previous generations. While he let us go on our own and say, you know what, go figure. So which was a very good thing. So, but in our business, my wife, Siddhi, and my brother Pratik, we three were the original co-founders. But now, of course, we are 100 plus people with a decent top management and middle management in place.
So you implemented ESOPs within the company?
Not yet. It's still completely held by the promoters.
And there is no outside investment till date?
Nothing.
So what is the reason for that?
So Printstop has a very organic growth. I mean, we were very slow, right? One store a year. People do 6-7 stores a month. So of course, it comes, we wanted to do that slow organic way. And so our stores kind of get operationally break even within 3 to 4 months. And capex wise, they within 18 to 24 months. So that is what we wanted to ensure. But the big other reason is we have thought of getting funding to scale several times. It's not that we haven't. When you're hearing about this everywhere, you also get those questions. But the thing is that the right thing at what right time? Till we were not confident that what multiplication factor we have for our growth. Forget the multiplication you get on your, that's all absurd in today's world. But till we get the confidence that this is the idea that now I can scale this, never did I feel that I can scale to 500 stores. So that was very out of place. But now with this platform, I have that multiplication factor where I can easily gain a lot of customers. And that I am seeing month on month over my last 4 to 6 months. Previous to that, all my avatars, whether it is physical stores or corporate sales, we were kind of winging it. In a sense, the corporate guy is giving us business. Next year, that guy who liked our work moves on to another company, we're out. We lost 2 big pharma clients because all their work started moving to iPads. So all that is extremely hard to predict because we don't have annual contracts or anything. It is on a need-based thing. But then, so we wanted to be sure that there is a path for us to scale on a continuous basis. And I think, if you ask me today, it is PrintSmart.
I mentioned in the beginning, there is a sharp contrast between things that Milak does. One is this whole organic growth of not taking funding. We'll talk about hokey pokey, but that's where funding has been taken. So it all depends on the model, it depends on, so for example, all the stores I believe are operationally profitable and, at very early in their life.
Absolutely, so, very early on.
So it's more a bottom line approach to a top line approach which everyone is taking. So it's a good lesson for all the startups who are here that this is another way where a business on a solid foundation can be done. So behind every successful man there is a woman. So you have your wife in the business.
Yeah.
So how much is her contribution and how much is the pressure that comes from her, considering that she dragged you all the way back from the valley back to Sion?
We call it the Chabuk. What happens is that when you are, so luckily for us, all the 3 co-founders come with very diverse skill sets and we all love doing very different things. Pratik enjoys operations, he's on the shop floor taking care of production. Siddhi handles all the HR, finance and actually the strategy of the company where it's growing. Since I love technology and come from that background, I'm very focused on all these things. So at a lot of times, we go into our own path. She's the one to pull us back to ground realities and check. ये बोला था हुआ क्या नहीं हुआ ना, get back to work. So that's a role that she plays very, very well, kind of overseeing the entire vision and keeping us in check at home and office.
So your father has implanted someone to take care of things.
Yeah, I always thought he spied on me.
Anyway, how much does the Stanford degree, the experience that you have, help in this whole Printstop journey?
I don't think it really mattered to any of my clients. If I go to meet a B2B client, that hardly comes up. So it really doesn't matter whether I went to a normal school or anything.
No. I meant in terms of the way you operate, the way the thinking is, the way, So there is a different thinking that happens when you go to something like Stanford.
No, that's true. I think, but that's true for a lot of other schools also. But I think what's important is that helped me really, this development platform which you see, a whole lot of it is designed by me. It's not coded by me, that's outsourced. However, because I come from this background, I can think about things, go deeper into it and come up with better use cases. So that experience no doubt has helped me nail on the solution far better as compared to, let's say, somebody who's non-technical who wouldn't be able to do it.
So the Prince Stop being the first avatar and this one, so obviously now it's become geographically independent. I mean, you can technically ship out anywhere in India or even outside.
We currently ship to 50 plus countries.
Okay.
India, of course, we get orders from cities that we've not heard of. But also internationally we get orders. It's not that we get a lot of orders, but all these orders are organic. We're not even marketing them. I think there is just so much need right now in India that we haven't had the need to go beyond. But we are going to do a few pilots in certain key countries to see how that is going to pan out for us.
So you're looking at social media, search engine marketing, etc. to kind of reach that kind of
We were
audience.
thinking of a couple of models. One was to kind of tie up with local printing companies there, because of course anybody who needs printing would go to an established printing company. So if that guy is able to fulfill your standard normal needs, while the planned things, while there are a lot of international companies are way more planned than us. If they can put their planned collateral to us, back-end it, and we can supply it to them, that's one way. But the other easier way is to do localized Google Ads. So we are looking at, we already get orders from people who are kind of visiting India for exhibitions, trainings and all those things. So we are already tapping them, and they all basically, how they've come to, they say, we looked online, yours seemed to be the only decent site, so we kind of came to you. So these are a couple of things that we are trying to pilot, but not yet.
But inter-country there is a price arbitrage, there is a price differential.
Huge.
Taking into account the freight factor, because it's a low ticket item, say card is a very low ticket item.
The card invoice typically, let's say to UAE, would be 300 rupees for the card, 700 rupees for the freight. But that 1000 is still cheaper than what you would get there.
But that means Prince Stop can be extended offline there also. And you could still make more money there than you are making here.
I don't know the cost involved there, so I haven't reached that stage to research in depth there. But a lot of partners, kind of companies have approached us to kind of take the brand in. Like primarily, we get a lot of inquiries from Africa, but then we don't have the bandwidth at this point. So this is one of the downsides of, let's say, of organic growing, because you're always so constrained in resources. You end up only trying to do things which are within your purview. Let's say if I had maybe. This is a hypothetical thing. We had money to throw around. Yeah, I would have hired a senior guy, take this project and maybe figure it out, and maybe we launch that. But those are the disadvantages of maybe in a constrained approach.
Yeah, but like Staples, Office Max, Office Depot have all got their print solutions around the globe.
Right.
A lot of countries, including India, of course it's now not grown as much. But that can be replicated.
Absolutely. Having a see, we deal primarily in a lot of digital printing and low volume work. So a lot of people, the transaction numbers are a lot, but the values are also very small. So to manage it, to set up a good solution back in office and then try to do this inter-country thing is what we need to think through.
Again, shifting gears, Hokey Pokey. How did that happen? And it's a complete shift. So how did that transpire?
Very, very, very different shift. When we were coming back to India, we basically, it was a very difficult decision because you always want to try and plan your transition. That yaar, jayenge, ye ho jayega, and then we can smoothly just join that. We tried extremely hard, but that leap of faith had to be taken and we had to jump. So the idea was to de-risk it. We came with 4 or 5 ideas and we implemented 2 of them. Hokey Pokey is with friends. Rohan is a very close, dear family friend, and we've spent a bunch of summers in India and New York together. Hokey Pokey is something which we kind of thought of, and while printing is something which is with family. Hokey Pokey story, I think everybody in the US who's visited the US or stayed in the US would think, yaar, Taco Bell and Cold Stone Creamery India mein chalengi hi chalengi. It's just that we went one step ahead. We actually did it rather than just talking about it. The idea initially was more as a side thing. Okay, bhai, it's cool to have an ice cream parlor business. We'll take friends there, enjoy it, that's about it. Every friend who's still there in the US, who's in the tech business, yaar, India aata hu aur ek restaurant khol de sakta. I like, come here, spend a day with me, maybe you'll go back. So it's easier said than done, but that started off as primarily as a lifestyle kind of a business. However, it has its own trajectory. And when the potential was there, then Rohan decided to come back and look at it full time. And that's when the serious action happened. Before that, it was just going on the side on its own.
So that a lot many more outlets than Prince Stop, Hokey Pokey.
Hokey Pokey, yes. It has got around 20 odd outlets across cities. But the interesting story for Hokey Pokey, again, like I said, for printing, we are looking at PrintSmart as the growth factor. The X factor for Hokey Pokey is FMCG. We launched FMCG about 6 to 8 months ago. We are now present in 600 plus locations across 7 cities. So that's where I think we see the growth. That's where we decided to push our energies to. Now that we have this channel to find a new, then we basically are now trying to push new products to the same channel. That's where Epigamia came into play.
So that, the thinking there is very different in terms of raising funds, not growing organically. So is that thinking because of your partner, or is it because of the nature of the business?
Primarily because of Rohan also, but also because of the nature of the business. See, printing is actually physical assets. And because we were organically growing, I could take debt from banks and all. Hokey Pokey is a branding play. No bank is going to give you money for marketing. So we had to raise money if we want to make a dent, or we would be running again our 5-6 parlor. And especially because when it became an FMCG game, to have that kind of a reach is what we needed the money for.
So where do you see now both these companies going in the next 2 to 5 years? I mean, you know.
So Printstop, what I see is basically, I don't particularly feel that printing is a pure online play. I mean, a lot of things in India are moving online. However, print, in my opinion, will still be omni-channel. You still need that physical connect because per se it's not a very easy e-commerceable product because it involves an artwork, it involves design, it involves CMYK, bleeds, a lot of technical terms. So it cannot be pure online. So I foresee that for us to scale, grow to other parts of the country, we would need to have a combination of physical people and online. By physical, I don't mean that we'll open stores. I think that's a very hard business. Because technically, if you think about it, running a printing store versus running Hokey Pokey or any other store, I think they're very different because Hokey Pokey is made up of, Printstop is made up of services which end up becoming a product. Let's say to make a book, you have to do printing, binding, etc., etc. You go to 4 of my own shops and go with a book, you might get a slightly varied code everywhere and maybe a slightly varied output everywhere. It's not necessarily like you're selling refrigerators, A, B, C, D, these are the specifications, these are the discount that you can give and you can sell it. So that's a very difficult play, and especially what do we bring to the table there? Machines are OEMs, paper is what is brought from outside, all we are doing is a good process. So a lot of people who ask us for franchises also, I'm not very sure if it's a very franchisable business or remote controllable business. Hence we've never thought of this opening it in Delhi or Bangalore or Pune or whatever. But I definitely think that with our newer model of hub and spoke, where we have reduced our own store formats, let's say our previous formats were 500 and now 200, our stores order with the hub through the online system. So they also use the same online system to order through our hubs. And what we're trying to do is, at the store also, trying to limit the offering to these 50 products. So these are the 50 products that we can do. The rest, you can call our helpline and maybe they might be able to help you out. We are further reducing it down to an order taking desk. What we are trying to do is, I have an order taking desk which is just a computer, having samples and basically showing it to you. You want a business card, you will come out, I'll show you the paper samples, a lot of designs which are ready. He'll help you do assisted e-commerce. So we will have feet on the street to help people convert that first transaction online, and once they move online, then I think it can happen on its own. But it's going to be a combination.
So just as in corporates, do you think there is a print desk that can happen at some time in different corporates? Just a desk with a PC and print smart at the other end?
I don't think a desk is needed. In fact, what happens is that the first time, 1 month desk is needed to help them onboard and then move on. So yeah, that is what has happened.
Or a shop in shop kind of thing. You have a supermarket and you're sitting there with a desk and anyone.
Again, then you are entering the services space. A lot of people will come to you with different varied things, and then you will be thinking that अच्छा मैं ये भी करता हूँ, वो भी करता हूँ, एक stationery का rack भी लगा देते हैं, ये भी कर देते हैं, versus going through a fixed number of products.
Now, some hard question. What about mistakes? Any mistakes you made which you regret? You think you could have done something differently?
I mean, several mistakes. I mean, we failed several times. I mean, one of the classic things I can tell you about is this online avatar which you see. We've been successful in our 3rd attempt. The first 2 I mentioned to you were dismal failures. And that also has a story behind it. The first 2 times, I decided to do it myself. being a computer engineer, you kind of think that, oh, you know what, I can do this. But you cannot be a technology company and a printing company simultaneously. So, and this is what in our conversation with my friends and other fellow entrepreneurs, we always end up thinking that as we grow, as we mature, we end up taking better decisions, sometimes worse also. But then sometimes what has happened is that previously the failures were because we want to solve problems and we want to solve them 100%. We are taking requirements, आज 5 चीज solve करनी है, 2 days के बाद अच्छा और ये 5 भी solve करनी है. We will never take something quickly, try it out, go to market soon and get feedback, but we try to perfect a product and then launch it, and by that time the relevance of that product is gone. So the failure I would say in this is that just because I had a computer science degree doesn't mean I'm the right person to do this. That's number one. And number two, I would say that over a period now, we've ended up figuring out that it's not necessary to solve a problem the best, but it is very necessary to go to market very fast, get the feedback and change it fast. So it's okay if we have so many customers. Like I said, printing is used by everyone possible. I could say that moms need it for the school projects for their kids, SMEs need it, ye need it. Let me make a super Uber app or a website which will be needed by everyone. But if I look at following or pursuing that path, failure is 100% guaranteed. So we had to take a couple of use cases that I wanted to solve, and even that, this is kind of 30% of the vision that we have ended up implementing. Because if we were to wait for all the features to come in and put it, then something new might have come and taken over. So move fast, fail fast, move on.
Right. So with that, I think throwing it over to the house for questions, because we're running a little late on time. So
one question: when you move to FMCG, exactly how did you market yourself and get yourself placed in the stores?
So it was a very difficult thing because we are not some big brands like Tata, Dabur or somebody who I could just walk into anybody and do. But the good thing for us is that at Hokey Pokey, we are always very, very confident of our product. So our product is a super premium ice cream. So if you see in the market, in the FMCG space, you currently see two main products. One is the industrial ice cream, which you get like 90-100 bucks a package, and the other end is the super premium, which you get at 700-800 bucks a package. So there was nobody who was doing it in the value for money, yet very good quality. So it took a little time, but then once people were confident on the product and a lot of pushing around, a lot of visits to them, when we started kind of getting traction. At the same time, it helped because we had our own retail stores. So people kind of knew a little bit about the brand, so they were willing to experiment with it. But the biggest game changer was the whole marketing, branding, positioning, the whole new packaging, the new logo. So Rohan is an expert in that. So he kind of took that to a completely new level.
So do you market for it separately, or because your brand was already there in your stores, you do it for itself?
No, we had to put a lot of effort into marketing.
Okay. So for that you required the funding?
Yes, absolutely.
But when you started putting it on the stores, you did it through a distributor or you just went directly?
For our own stores?
No, not for your own stores.
For
or
FMCG,
yes.
Through a distributor.
Through a distributor.
Absolutely, because cold logistics in this country are pretty much absent.
Right.
So we still do struggle, but now with time, some of the bigger players have started giving us some attention. Previously, nobody used to even work with us because our volumes were so low. So we used to manage it on our own. We used to have our own reefer vans who would go from door to door to our parlors to these places and all, try to send them from Mumbai to Delhi, blah, blah, blah. But then, as our growth and scale has happened, now the bigger players are willing to work with us.
So what were the challenges when you started with the FMCG? To get it into the retail stores, what were the kind of
convincing
blockages?
them about placing us in the shelf,
right,
and the cold logistics. Those are the two biggest challenges.
So how did you overcome that?
So first one was convincing, and the second we managed logistics on our own. And then as volumes grew, we moved to a professional partner in logistics.
Yeah, because
in your sales at Princeton, what percentage comes from your own design studio, Pehchan, and how do you see that evolving? When you look at, say, the 99 designs and those kind of models, crowdsourcing, now managed design marketplaces, how do you see that evolving?
Very low percentage comes from Pehchan. Pehchan would be less than 5% of the prints printed at Princeton. In fact, maybe about 3%. But the thing is, we started Pehchan with a very different viewpoint. You have DTP designers right at the bottom, and you have these fancy agencies way up there. There is nothing in the middle for the average SME startup and everyone. So that's what the idea was, to kind of also productize design. Wrong thing to say to designers, but still, in a way, something which is affordable, and I don't want my logo to be PS. I want it to be a slightly better than that. So that was the idea behind it. But unfortunately, we've not been able to take that to a totally different level. However, what you see is a lot of the templates which you are designed are done by us. So then that's the way we're trying of pushing our own designs. And we see a lot of orders being placed online.
Do you see a
using
market
these-
for that kind of design, productized design, marketplace or like a startup?
Absolutely. I think a lot of people, we are increasingly becoming brand conscious. With so many companies coming into play, everybody wants to ensure that their brand is relevant, it's felt, and it is kind of looked upon differently as compared to the others. So the business card, the logo and everything is playing a much more and more important part. So definitely if somebody can offer affordable services, it's a great thing. Unfortunately, it is still a very fluid service thing that to productize it and to give it to somebody is easier than it looks like.
Being a non-technical company, and then we are going to build a website. So as you said, it is better to outsource some technical things even if you know it.
Right.
So what are the challenges that are faced in outsourcing, and what are the points to remember in while you are outsourcing such things, which are basically important?
See, the key problem is finding the right partner. Unfortunately, that's the most, that is going to be the make or break, whether the partner you find is the right wavelength as you, he understands you better or so. But that I think you can to a fair extent after meeting, looking at their other work, you'll be able to find out. The only one major piece of advice which I still continue to give to a lot of friends is that try and be as much clear within yourself what you want to do. What is the goal? If there's an app you want to build, what is the goal for the end user of the app? What do you expect him to do out of it? We as entrepreneurs end up being very fickle-minded. आज ये problem solve करना है, कल दूसरा problem solve करना है, and that you're ending up, you're going to be scuttling your project right from the beginning. So that is one piece of advice, that try to be as clear. It's not possible to be 100% because we keep on evolving, but try to at least keep one part of the vision, go for it completely before you try to again add other bells and whistles to the whole product.
I will add that website is always work in progress. You can never draw a final model. You've got to draw a line somewhere to start. That is very important. Second thing is, every client of ours in 15 years has, kind of just eliminated the creative liberty, so to say. So we have no creative liberty. As I told one client after 3 years working, if you hired a dog and then you want to bark, that's the problem. You hire an agency and then you want to be creative. So it's a problem. So that's why you need to know when to let go and say, okay, they are the experts. That is why we have hired them. Let them do that job. Be specific in what is there and then draw the line. No change in the next avatar. That's very important.
Very interesting anecdote, sorry, to add on this. You hired a dog and you want to bark. At our retail stores, when people used to come, we used to be a print service provider. यार एक line change करना है, तो वो आर्टवर्क लेगा, अच्छा ऊपर नीचे ऐसा करो. You end up becoming a designer, being in a driver's seat. And 2 घंटा, 3 घंटा, यार इतना ही तो 2 लाइन तो change किया, इसके लिए क्या? So, coming back to your question about design services, people want to meet you for a basic logo brief. मेरे को एक अच्छा विजिटिंग कार्ड डिजाइन करना है, डिजाइनर को भेजो ना मिलने.
The initial pitch is quite to take offline.
That's what they feel that designers are creative people. No, forget that. They think they are creative people. So they will say that मैं बुलाता हूँ, मेरे को ये कलर ऐसे चाहिए, ये ऊपर ऐसे करेंगे, तो आप ही डिजाइन कर लो ना भाई. So that's why we keep it a rule at Pehchan that if somebody wants to meet us, we are not an agency. You email us your requirements, we'll give you a brief quote, end of story. Communicate via email, because at least you're not trying to. And designers get very offended if you try to tell them what to do.
And customers, when they see the product, it's actually their product, and they scream that this is a shitty product, but it's actually their product. But they did moved the mouse and did everything there. We just kind of saved it as a JPEG. Very good. So,
one question I always wonder upon is, everybody is moving into mobile apps now. with regards to kind of time and investment that you have done into your web design. What do you think? What is the shift is going to be? Because Flipkart has already killed its mobile website. What about this? Because again, this I want to get it done in the run, in the client. So how would you visualize yourself in a couple of times?
So India misses a lot of these cycles, right? Phones, landline, straight to the cell phone. So website is one such instance. However, I personally feel that if you want to create your own design and everything on a mobile, is not going to be that easy an experience. That being said, an app is extremely relevant even for us, but more from the angle of reordering, order status and things like that. However, I don't really foresee at this point you going to my app, selecting one of the templates, trying to add stuff, because what will happen is because of the limited screen, I'll show you fields on one side, swipe, see the preview, go back, blah, blah, blah. So it's not going to be that useful an experience. You're like, yeah, I would rather chuck it and go back to the website. So especially for the print product, I mean the creative product or something, and think about it, if you want to even upload your own artwork, you would mostly have it in your email, download karo email se, add karo, upload karo online. So that part is very cumbersome. I would say in the app experience, it's far more enjoyable on the desktop experience. However, the other account management features, they are very relevant. Just to find my old card and reorder it is very good. So we have app plans, but we are still very grounded onto our web experience.
So you mean to say business specific, your app, your migration to an app completely will be depending upon business specific.
Absolutely. For Hokey Pokey, for example, there is a very different thought process for something new that we are trying to do. We might totally skip the web route and go straight to the app route. But it's very dependent on the business that you want to do it for.
Yeah, so gentlemen then, sorry.
Yeah. My question is regarding your Hokey Pokey going through the FMCG route. How, going through distributors, how does it put pressure on the business cash flows, and would you recommend that for a startup to pursue this route?
In fact, our experience with distributors has not been that bad. Except for a couple of bad apples, most likely it is better. I can say that distributors are far better than brands. Those malls and brands pay you after ages. The distributor at least, in fact now we've started having advances. So I think having a known devil is far better than an unknown devil. Yeah, sure, he's not as technologically advanced or somebody has the direct brand, but I think from a cash flow perspective, which your specific question is far better.
Would you recommend online, like Amazon and other big basket and other things, using those platforms to sell your product?
So we sell extensively through Big Basket in Bangalore, because Bangalore Big Basket has a cold logistics thing. In fact, we've just launched in Hyderabad also. Big Basket Mumbai doesn't have a cold logistics. So I think these platforms are the best thing that could have happened, because it suddenly gives your product an audience which you never had. You're riding on somebody else's success. So in fact, for a lot of these, yeah, I mean, there are so many aggregators available, but if you're doing it with one of the top guys, then I think is a no-brainer. You should just totally do it. I think for a regular product company now, to think of doing their own e-commerce site to sell a product, I don't think it makes any sense. You can just go through so many of these platforms, or maybe even look at one of your own e-commerce based carts which are readily available and sell it on that. The reason we had to do it on our own is because we sell a customizable product. It's not a standard product. So that's the big difference. Otherwise, if I get an avenue to straight 5 other different people, then it is doable.
Would you sell to a tiny house?
With things happening, what they are happening, it is possible.
Last 3 days I've been ordering desserts on tiny house.
Very interesting thing.
There's only one guy on tiny house. So I'm just,
So they are also clients, but very interesting anecdote. When Ola had launched about 3 years back or so, there was one of my ideas to open a 24/7 photocopy and / printing unit, because there are so many finance professionals, a lot of people who need prints at night. But I don't want to keep people on bikes and all that, because I don't want that liability on me. How about I offer the service online, you pay the cab charge, but I will backdoor it through an Ola and deliver it to them. So अभी तो लोग food भी कर रहे हैं. Now I should talk to Bhavesh about doing this. But everybody is going to do everything.
In the investment for Poki Poki, how easy or difficult it is, getting an investor?
It was not really hard for Poki Poki, primarily because of enough work done behind it from a brand perspective and from a product perspective. We didn't go for funding when we had a business plan. We went for funding when we had actual operational outlets, products, we were in the market and we needed money for scaling. The initial everything was bootstrapped, so it was easier. But I can just say this because I haven't done that when we had a business plan in place.
So now your focus will be on scaling up of Poki Poki or the FMCG retail business?
In Poki Poki, our focus is definitely on the FMCG part. Because once we have this channel now, we're just coming up with newer and newer products and then pushing them to the same channel. It just makes sense to utilize and optimize that channel.
One regarding for current entrepreneur, would you suggest being innovative and create a product or look at a successful product elsewhere in other continent and just get it here?
I actually don't have an answer to that. It is a lot of people, the latter part which you mentioned, a lot of people are great at that. They go to China and they come up with such amazing gizmos and products and they trade it here. But then you become kind of a agent or a reseller or stuff like that, and there is nothing stopping somebody else from going and getting there. Versus if the first one you're going to do, that's going to be something which you are doing yourself. That's not to say that somebody else is not going to copy that as well.
Any question? You have some thoughts because being in the business?
No, I was just wondering, I'm part of a print business and I know I keep my hands full with one business. Gulab is part of a print company, he runs another startup, he's a father of 2 kids, and he's active in forums like TIE and how do you manage your time?
Master of the middle. Straddles 2 spheres, east and west, tradition and new age.
So originally, yes, I used to be, it was pretty hard because first 2 years of Poki Poki, I was pretty much part of it. But then beyond that, it was getting extremely hard. So I had to decide to take a back seat operationally, and good for us that Rohan decided to come back and take on the reins in his hands. So luckily that way I am, yes, I don't have to take care of operations at Poki Poki. But yeah, the other thing I think happened purely because I enjoyed doing it. Meeting different people through these platforms or spending time with my kids. Of all the things, working is the last thing I remember.
I'm more curious on the printing. Any questions coming to you being in that business for such a long time? Sorry, it's nonsense.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of interested in his story. Any interesting question or any thought?
No, I think it, as an outsider coming into the industry, you take a completely fresh take on it and you start off at a very different level compared to traditional businesses. And that's why you haven't seen too many traditional houses innovate at this level. Because they're already grounded in that day-to-day mayhem of operations and sales. And so I think you need some sort of out-of-the-box thinking to come into this with this kind of vision and approach it like this. So it's great that we have companies like Finstop and people doing it.
Yeah.
Do you plan to actually start doing something like in 2-hour print visiting card or 3-hour print visiting card?
See, technically we can.
Right.
However, the problem is expectation management at a certain point also. I can do 2-hour printing at my physical store, which is happening right now also, but is it possible for me to scale those stores up to 100? No, maybe not. But what we're doing online is, again, another very interesting tidbit. If you come to my physical store and you tell me any business guy, I said, sir, 2 days, एक दिन में चाहिए तो you can pay 100 rupees extra expedited charge. I can guarantee nobody pays that. कभी कोई भी extra पैसा नहीं pay करेंगे. Online, about 10 to 15% transactions, they pay the expedited charges. किसको बात करने को नहीं है ना? I need my card, ये पैसा लो, credit card भरो, खत्म नहीं करो. Versus physical store that I would argue with you, क्यों ये? What we're doing is 2 hours is maybe hard, but we are trying to do same day service. We're trying to figure out that is it possible that if I get an order, Why is it difficult? Because I cannot predict the business at a particular location at any point. If let's say you are from Villeparle and I figure out I'll print through my dad's store and ask you to pick it up from there. But if there is workload there, then that becomes hard. So what we offer is expedited services like 24 hours and things like that. 2 hours, I don't know.
Like once what happened was, I was traveling from Manchester to London for a meeting and I had one of my business cards. So I called up an agency, they said, okay, we'll print the cards, you can pick it up from a London store. So I saved my 2 hours of waiting into Manchester and then
Absolutely.
I could travel to London, pick up the cards and my work was done. So I saved 2 hours.
Correct.
So that was like a breakthrough for me to keep going with that agency. I mean, I was just thinking about that
So it's a very
idea.
interesting model. A lot of people do that, geotagging and printing together.
Yeah.
You go on your web, they'll show you 10 stores nearby to you, which is active in Europe and the US, and you can print there. But primarily, most people use it for documents. Like business people who are doing presentation on the fly, find out the nearest thing. Because now with Google Print, I mean, you can take any printer essentially and put it to the web,
Yeah.
right? So I can enable all the printers in my office to be on the web. You place an order there, it gives you a password. You go to my store, give the password and they can print it for you. But अगर वहाँ पे rush हुआ, वहाँ पे 4-5 बंदे हैं, तुम बोलोगे online print किया. You see ना at all theaters and all event companies, online separate queue, इसका separate queue.
True.
Then all that infrastructure and all that, and I'm trying to diminish my stores. So I'm really not sure if that fits into our model.
One final question.
Okay. Being a startup, as an individual, it becomes challenging to do a lot of things. So should we rely on tie-ups or have somebody else involved in doing the daily activities operations, or have some dedicated resource, or hire somebody at the start itself, keeping in mind? Last 1 month, all these thoughts have been started coming in, because there are a lot of things that you intend to do at one go.
Correct.
So, doing tie-up, being a partner.
See, in a startup, when you're starting off, you are peon to CEO. Everything you have to do, I'm pretty sure. But certain things like you mentioned, if you can find a distributor, for example, if you have a product and you find a right partner who's selling an ancillary product who doesn't mind you loading on along with that, then that's a great thing. It will help you reach much more people. But other things at your end, those are all dependent on a lot of factors like the kind of person you get and a lot of other factors. But if you can find for your product and all a distribution partner, that definitely is a great thing. But the other thing are very circumstantial.
One last question here.
Yeah. When you're bootstrapping an app, is it a better approach rather than getting a team together, like you're picking up one programmer from here, one developer from here, or outsource it to a unit which develops products for you, which is a better approach because you're bootstrapping, so you have to be very
I think
wise about it.
bootstrap cases would do the former because it is just
Get programmers, get a team ready.
because it's easy on the pocket. Unfortunately, a unit which you try to go to is going to be so expensive when you're bootstrapping. I feel it totally depends on the kind of budgets you have and the kind of thing you want to set up. If you have the budget, then of course the second
option is a better option.
Yeah, I think so. Because to manage different people from different backgrounds and where you are the product manager and necessarily or not necessarily you might have those skill set and you are the one who's juggling around everything.
Yeah.
So then in that sense, the other company has those resources to manage it for you. But if it becomes a question of economics, then the first one is a no-go. It's the only
Yeah,
option.
but in that case, you're losing a lot of time. You're getting people together, you're getting team together, and like you said, if you don't make the move, okay, and you miss out on the deadlines or where you need to get the product
Correct.
out, then you might have lost the war.
Correct.
Trying
So
to
that's
do
a
that.
chicken and egg problem. Whether you have the additional funds to go for the full-blown enterprise version beginning, or you want to straddle through iterations of development.
Okay, one last thing. If you make something and if you fail in the market, the first time, is that a big dent for you to stand up again?
Nobody remembers what happened yesterday.
Because, yeah.
I think we just move on. I don't think there are enough customers for everything. At the same time, I just have some bias against you, but then there are so many other people you can do. I think that's true. That would be true for any industry or any vertical you're looking at.
Cool. Thanks.
One extra question from that. This whole stress that is getting created of this land grab and I'm going to lose the war if I don't launch in 30 days or 60 days. What do you think of that? It's gone a little crazy, it's gone a little haywire. considering there are just in this country 1.3 billion people, and business has longevity. So if your business is doesn't have longevity, and there's so many, there's place for so many players. So what is your opinion on this whole stress situation that is there today?
You're talking about customer acquisition and the race for
Anything.
it, right?
So someone is launching an app, someone has an idea, and they all feel if I don't do it tomorrow or today, then I lose the whole game, I lose the war.
Correct. So I think what I feel is that a lot of people are putting a lot of money into this, trying to acquire customers, and there is going to be a bloodbath at a certain point. People will consolidate, people will move on together. But as far as startups trying to launch it in 30, 60 days, I think that's also a good thing because you're trying to fail fast. Rather than trying to spend 6-8 months behind a product, figuring it out, then going to market, you've already put so much of resources behind it. It is much better that 1 month आप काम खत्म कर लो या तो this पर या तो उस पर.
Technically, nothing happens in 30-60 days. I mean, it's not
Nothing
something.
Nothing
happens.
Absolutely.
I mean, you may have the app out there. It's like having a mobile with a number, but unless you spread the number around, you don't get too many calls.
Correct.
So honestly, there is some
There is
gestation.
merit in organic growing, no doubt about that. However, all I meant to say was that you need to be continuously talking to your customers and getting more and more feedback. So don't wait for 6 months to launch it. Maybe launch it, but continue and improve it. Like you said, it's always a continuous process.
Yeah. Any other word of advice based on what our demographics is today? A lot of startups here, a lot of people with ideas wanting to launch.
No, I think pretty much covered it in the thing. My firm advice to most people a lot of people come who say they want to do something is be as crystal clear as possible in what you want your customer to experience so that you can design your solution product accordingly. Otherwise, you will be just beating around the bush. You might not get it on day one, but believe me, when you try to figure that out and you freeze on that vision, go along with it for a substantial amount of time. Don't keep on changing it on a day-to-day basis. Otherwise, sometime today you will be solving this problem, tomorrow another problem, and each problem has a very different TG associated with it. So then you are completely going haywire.